The Sovereign King James Bible, the collector's edition that changes how Scripture is understood. There are Bibles you read, and then there are Bibles that teach you how to see what was always there. For generations, readers have relied upon systems built around fragmented references, incomplete frameworks, and interpretations far removed from the original Hebraic force of the text. As it is written in the prologue of Sirach, "Wherefore, let me entreat you to read it with favor and attention, and to pardon us, wherein we may seem to come short of some words which we have labored to interpret, for the same things uttered in Hebrew and translated into another tongue have not the same force in them. And not only these things, but the law itself and the prophets and the rest of the books have no small difference when they are spoken in their own language." That truth remains. The words have survived, but much of their force has been diminished through translation without proper framework. Now, for the first time, that force is restored with structure and clarity. The Sovereign King James Bible by elder.mjohnson, a master Hebraist of biblical law at the 82nd level reader and translator of Paleo-Hebrew, is not merely another printed Bible. It is a restoration work. This edition contains the spiritual dictionary placed in the back of the Bible, designed to support and clarify the language of Scripture, not to steer the reader into any constructed or imposed belief system as many modern editions have done. It does not interfere with the text. It does not alter the reading. It provides understanding when you seek it. This is what sets it apart. While others continue to rely on systems such as Strong's Concordance, which lead readers through predefined pathways full of errors, this work allows the reader to approach the Scriptures with structure, clarity, and Hebraic insight without manipulation. Why settle for 66 books when the full record stands at 82, surface reading when deeper understanding is available, guided interpretation when you can examine with clarity and order? This is your opportunity to learn Hebrew thought the Hebrew way, while maintaining the integrity of the Scriptures themselves. And here is what makes this moment critical. Elder Johnson has vowed there will be no reprint period! Once these collector's editions are gone, they are gone. Forever. No second run. No revised edition. No future release. What remains in circulation will become the only surviving copies of this work. So the question is not whether this Bible is rare. The question is, what is understanding worth to you? What matters more? Another common edition repeating what has already been printed countless times, or owning one of the final existing copies of a collector's Bible structured for clarity, study, and preservation of meaning? History always remembers those who recognized value before scarcity became regret. The Sovereign King James Bible, limited, final, unrepeatable. When they are gone, it's your own dang fault! They are gone! They are gone!
Dear Heavenly Father, in Jehovah, the author of every statue and opener of every dark sand, the book is open in front of us, Father, and we did not touch it until you have touched us. And thank you, oh Father, and we thank thee, that it came down to us whole, through fire and centuries in the hands of men who hate it. Thanking you, oh Father, that we are permitted to read it aloud in a free room where our own grandfathers, our forefathers were beaten for trying. We thank thee. Thee for the people who carried it in us, the mothers, our grandmothers who prayed over us, before we understood one word of it. The hard teachers who would not let us be lazy, and the ones who are now sleeping in the ground and who would never know on this side what their labor did in each and every one of us. But today, Father, we bless this lesson that is going forth today. I ask, Father, to bless me as I stand to open it. I ask to give me the tongue of the learned, that I may know how to speak the words in this season and not be worried. I ask to let me read distinctly, give all the connections that is needed, Father. Give sense to make the people to understand the reading and to keep me inside the borders of what is written. I ask to let me build precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little, Father, and there a little. And never set one stone on the wall that has not queried. And I ask to keep me from the pride, Father, because to handle holy things daily, that is a dangerous trade. So just, Father, let me be just a doorkeeper and not a Lord. And bless this house, Father, because the family that I am tied to, Father, pays the price that the congregation can never count. And Father, as I prepare this lesson for today for your people, because this is going to press on each and every one of us, and we are opening the registers and press today. And the ones who were leaned and on the one that stood, and the ones who leaned and fell. I, Father, I remember a queen who would not come when a drunken king commanded her. A strong man who pressed after day until his souls were vexed to death, and told everything, and lost his eyes in the sight of his enemies. The disciples pressed 3 times, Father, in the courtyard, by nobody important who fell 3 times before the fire. He should never have been warning himself beside them. Father, none of us know which column we are until the pressure comes. So I pray to you, Father, to teach us this morning by the olives in the press. 2 of them go under the beam the same day, off the same tree, and gathered the same hand, and they took the same line in the basket, and beams come down and on both alike. And the first brake and gave out oil. It was carried into the house and burned as a lamp all winter. The second one breaks and gives out nothing, but water and bitterness, and swept off the floor at evening. The press did not make them different. Oh, Father, the press only said loud what the summer had already put aside them. So we walk and we would not ask to spare us the beam, because the beam is coming to to all of us. And we ask you, Father, we ask you, instead of the long, quiet summers and the days nobody watches, the obedience nobody praises, the prayers nobody hears, fall in the hidden season, that there may be oil in us when the weight comes down. And let us not leave here proud to show us the wall that us is already cracked. Mend it before the weight comes against it. Break up the fallow ground and take the stones and the thorns. Make this room, Father, that honest and a good heart which hears the word and keeps it, and bring forth fruit in it with patience. Let no man hear, be a hearer only, looking at their own face in the glass, walking away and forgetting immediately what kind of man he was. So I pray to you, Father, in the ways of Jehovah, let the lesson cut where we are proud and open and the festering, and let the burning we feel be the burning of those whose heart burn inside them while the scriptures is being opened. And when the pressing comes, it will come. And let us be found standing, not because we were strong, but because thou art holding us up from the inside. So I pray, Father, let you speak, and thy servants are listening. In the name of Jehovah, the teachers of Israel, and the keepers of everyone who stands under the pressure for the name that is great, Jehovah. In Jehovah, Father, we will always pray. Amen.
You and I down. They will tell you from the rooftop, where the twilight learned to lie, where a king looked down on water in the cool hour of the eye. But we did not open at the roof, we opened at the bench, where the statues take their seat before the story, and no crown can plead a crown for its defense. Judges in all thy gates, no respect to face, no coin upon the scale. One law for the homeborn and the stranger, and a plumb blind that will not fail. So light the lamp and make the search, ask diligently, make it plain. Let 2 or 3 mouths speak the fact before you sound a name. He slept at the door, he slept at the door, with the servants of his Lord on the threshold floor. There was bread on the table and a bed of his own, and the law itself had held that bed open. But the ark was in a tent, so he went not down, he went not down. First they sent him with a portion, hush money on a plate. Oh, the gift can blind the wisest eye, but it never turned his gate. Then the questioning came softly, camest thou not from thy far road? And a faithful man was cross-examined for the crime of keeping the law of God. Then the wine, the stumbling block they poured for the man the crown had labored first to blind. And it is not for kings the drink and then the judge, lest the statute slip the royal mind. 3 unlike hands, 1 single wish, 3 doors that all led down. 3 times the record answered in the self-same breath, and the scribe stood up as 3 witnesses to 1 sound. with the servants of his Lord on the threshold floor. There was bread on the table and a bed of his own, and the law itself had held that bed open. Open the book upon the table, the ink is wet, the pages worn. Them that were pressed and stood, them that were pressed and torn. Joseph, who would not take a bed that was another man's? Daniel, who would not touch the portion, nor the wine that the king had poured? The very two instruments they used upon our man. Naboth, who told the coveting king no to his face, and got letters sealed with the king's own seal for his reward. Vashti, who would not come at the word of a married king? Two refusers, two royal letters, two graves, and not one of them is written down to shame. And no man leaned upon his own wall. Samson pressed daily with her words till his soul was vexed to death. And the lamps of his eyes went out in Gaza. Peter pressed 3 times beside a courtyard fire, and 3 times he fell. Pressure is the furnace that tells the metal. The furnace has a purpose, and the purpose has a name. To humble thee and to prove thee, to know what was in thine heart. And the victor's portion is the next verse over. Man doth not live by bread alone. The beloved took his harp and asked, who shall abide upon the hill? And among the marks he wrote this line: he sweareth to his own hurt, and changeth not still. Now remember the man at the doorway. He swore and the oath came dear. It cost him his bed, it cost him his wife, it cost him his rest, it cost him his year, and at the last it cost him his life. And he changed not. Oh, the beloved drew the portrait of the man who may abide, and a Hittite filled the frame in the beloved's own doorway. And the beloved had him tried. The psalmist painted the only face that ever matched his song, then sent it to the hottest of the battle, where the sword could do the wrong. He slept at the door, he slept at the door, at the very seat of judgment, on the threshold floor, where the law his servants swear and bores the ear, where the elders sit, where the witnesses appear. He lay down at the place his cause should have been tried, and the king had stolen the trial away to the twilight side. 3 pressures came and 1 wall stood, and the wall was the law of Jehovah in a soldier's heart. He went not down. Woe to the nest built high with blood. Woe to the bottle set beside the door, and the cup that the king went pouring, that is coming back to the hand that poured. The mouth that God sent found yet in the room, and the whole indictment folded to 4 words: thou art the man. The fire of Jehovah lay at the door of the house of the beloved that night. The darkness kept the chamber, and the threshold kept the light. And they that sang the doorkeeper's song came from a swallowed house that did not die. The children of Korah kept the gate, the chastened held the morning key. So if the furnace found you and the pressing left you sore, the judged house becomes the guardian. The chastened keep the door. The chastened keep the door.
And shalom, everyone. Shalom. I want to welcome everyone to the house of the Lost Sheep of Israel. I'm the pastor here, Elder Michael Johnson, and also with King James Bible University. And I want to welcome each and everyone here today. And before we get started, it's just tell you a short story. This past week, and I had the conversation with the reps over at Google, and they shared something that was really profound to me. And they was trying to figure out they was looking at my algorithms. And the same thing they said they couldn't figure out how you have a lot of people. You have a lot of people who frequently visit. You have a lot of people who don't frequently visit. But they say that the thing is, the people who frequently visit, they never like any of your videos. It's less than 5% of them that do that. And they were sitting there saying, "Do you understand why?" I said, "No, I don't. I don't ask them to." But he said, "But when they do that, it actually helps not just this channel, but you tie it to a bigger thing that you guys have. It's King James Bible University, and it goes out and it helps promote all the channels. But they don't put a lot up there." And I thought about that. And I understood it still. Once he said it, it's just some things I just chose not to tell him. But this is the thing, because a lot of people, they choose not to do it. I'm not going to beg you or ask you to do it. But the main thing is, a lot of people sit there and say they try to share the Word of God, but they don't sit there and try to use that as an algorithm to push that out there. That's the interesting part. Because the same thing here, you'll sit there and you can see the numbers, but then when you look at the thumbs up, which runs the algorithm, it's always going to be lopsided. So that just drives it more to where it shows exactly what we hear, what we're dealing with, the people, what we deal with. And why, a lot of times people try to understand why things must change. But it shows truly what it is. It's no difference. And then when they're not satisfied until the things is taken away. So when the things is taken away, then they sit there and they wish what they hoped they had, that they once had. So it's interesting. It's an interesting thing. And I try to understand, because we have a lot of them. We have a lot of brothers. We have a lot of deacons. We have elders. We have evangelists that teach. But to help drive KJBU, people don't do that simple thing. And they asked me the one thing. He said, "Why you don't tell them to do that?" He said, "Because a lot of the channels you'll see, they tell you to do that." And I say the same thing. You can give people the truth, but everybody's not going to drink it. So the same thing is here. You have a lot of people here just going through formality, but they never drinking the truth. That's why we hold to what we hold to. So I'm going to continually move forward, but it just shows you that's why even where we go into our Zooms a lot right now, we have a lot of people who don't do what's required of them. So they don't do them, but then they still, it's knowledge hunting. And I choose not to feed a knowledge hunter. I choose to feed people who truly seeking God. So I am my stance in this. And as I also had a vision of making sure that separation is speeding up. And one of those speeding up is showing the separation of not allowing them to speak to me about knowledge hunting. And it's going to keep building. So I understand that. But as I said once before, my only concern is right now is my wife. And I'll tell you the particular reason why, because she has a heart for people. And I get it. I understand it. But you got to understand it's a bigger picture that's out there. So as she continually stay by me, she'll see it. And she'll understand or I'll do what I do. And one thing I will never change is working for God. So as we continually move forward, we continue to make changes. Things will change as with people, as we continually move forward. And the same we look at here. The same thing you look at this here. You see David sitting in this chair. He has his crown on. But you can't respect people because of their position. So that's what you see. A man in the position of a king, but it doesn't change that he's a man. It doesn't change that he plotted and killed Uriah. It doesn't change that he slept with Uriah's wife. None of that changed. So we got to continue on what we was doing to where we can get a full understanding on what happened. So let's go over here to the Bibles. We're gonna look at something here. We're gonna get some understanding on what's been happening, because we left off where things was going on. But what we want to remember on where we trying to get to. And the same thing is hopefully that the people I know that's seeking God read and understood the parable that was written for the description, as well as the song that I wrote, to help you to understand exactly what we're getting ready to go through. Because what we're going to do, we're going to enter into Vashti. Most people know, and the women they working on, but we have to lay off of that for a second. But we want to remember it's Vashti. In Vashti, in the court of Persia, who she refused the king's commandment when the king's heart was merry with wine, and he called on it. But we're going to look at that to get a better understanding of exactly what was happening. So let's get over here. We're going to go to Esther chapter 1, but we're going to pick it up at verse 10. And we're going to start understanding some things, because I want to put some things in perspective to where we can understand the seriousness of David. And he says, on the seventh day, when the heart of the king was merry with wine, understand, with wine, he commanded Mehuman in Biztha, in Hebron, and Bigtha, and Abigtha, Zotar, and Carcass, the 7 chamberlains that served the presence of Axarias, the king. And he told them to bring Vashti, the queen, before the king with the crown royal, to show the people and the princesses her beauty, for she was fair to look upon. Issue becomes here. But Vashti refused to come to the king's commandments by his chamberlains. Therefore, for that exact reason was the king very wroth, and his anger burned in him. That's an issue there. But the same thing is, most people are going to look at her and put things on her. But I want you to make sure, when you're looking at her and you're trying to point fingers at her, you have 45,000 fingers pointing back at you. Keep that in mind. In Judges, we see in 16 and 17, it says, came to pass when she pressed him daily with her words and urged him, so that his soul was vexed unto death. And he told her all his heart, and he said unto her, there have not come a razor upon my head, for I have been a Nazarite unto God from my mother's womb. If I be shaven, then my strength will go from me, and I should be weak and be like other men. This is interesting. Highly, highly interesting. Because you got to remember the same thing. This is what's happening. You're being tried. You're being tried, and as we have David up on the stand. So the eyes were not even of Gaza. Peter was pressed 3 times in the courtyard, and he fell thrice. He fell 3 times. Pressure in the furnace that tells the metal. Deuteronomy named the purpose that every such furnace, when you are being tried, hopefully you guys understand what I'm saying. We're going to look at something in Deuteronomy chapter 8, picking up at verse 2, and we're going to go down to 3. But it says, and thou shalt remember all the way which the Lord thy God had led thee 40 years in the wilderness to humble thee. Key word. I actually spoke about that last night because someone spoke in pushing they want to push their point. And they were 100% wrong the entire time. But besides sitting back and being quiet, they still want to push their point to where I can hear it, even though it's wrong. That's the part right there. To humble thee, to prove thee, to know what's in thy heart, whether thou keep the commandments or no. That was the key. Goes on here, he says, and he humbled thee and suffered thee to hunger, and fed thee with manna which thou knowest not. Neither did thy fathers know, that he might make thee know that man do not live by bread alone. You don't live just by food. You don't live by food. But by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of the Lord doeth man live. These things, this is what we have to understand. And this is our problem, because we always want to look at something else. And he said the same thing here. We look at this in Matthew. He said, but he answered and said, it is written. So it's written. We see it. Man shall not live by bread alone, but every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God. You see, even Yahushua, Jesus, he said the same identical thing. Urias stood upon the camp, and out of the same identical book, the camp armed with both the king who commanded a copy of the book in his own hand stood having forgotten what happened. What happened? I want to explain this before we go into the issues, because we don't want to misconstrue David, because David was a king. That's one. But he was after God's own heart. He used the king's side to do what he did to Uriah, not to go after God's heart. We have to understand that. So David, he wrote a psalm. He wrote a psalm. I'm going to show it to you. He wrote a psalm, and we have to start it there to understand exactly what was going on. So we're going to sit there and we want to look at this. And we're going to see Psalms. In Psalms 15, and we're going to pick it up at verse 1. I want you to see something, but you're going to see Uriah fulfills this. But David wrote it. The beloved wrote it, and a Hittite fulfilled it. Everybody follow me? And I want you to see that it says right here, real clear, it says, Lord, who shall abide in thy tabernacle? Who shall dwell in thy holy hill? But I want you to see something. It says, in whose eyes our vile person is contemned. This understand. But he honoreth them that fear the Lord, he that sweareth to his own hurt and change not. So contentment, talking about despised and rejected. So we got to remember the man at the door. It was a man at the door. He swore with his own hurt. For this oath that he made cost him his own bed, his own wife, his own rest. And at the last, his own life. And he changed not. He changed not. The beloved David wrote it. David wrote this that we just read. Uriah fulfilled it. The beloved wrote the description of a man who abided in the tabernacle, and the Hittite fulfilled the description in the beloved own doorway. In the beloved, David slew him. Meaning the psalmist drew the portrait and then destroyed the only man in the house who matched it. You guys follow me? You're seeing how serious this is getting. This is the issue here. This is the issue here. So what we have to do, we have to look at this in a closer way to understand what's happening. So I'm going to put some findings together so each and every one of us can understand exactly what's going on. So what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to put together, and actually let me put these Bibles back up because I want to show you exactly what I'm going to do. Because everybody needs to see this. And I'm going to show you 3 exhibits. Exhibit 13, Exhibit 15, Exhibit 17. I'm going to join them together so this body can understand where I'm coming from. So in Exhibit 13, we see something. In Exhibit 13, and you're going to see them in my exhibit that I have in my presentation, but I want to show it to you here. And we're going to look at 2 Samuel, and we're going to look at 11 in verse 8. We have that one. I want to put up another one. We have 2 Samuel, and we have 11 in verse 10. And then we have 2 Samuel, 11 in verse 12. So I have all 3 up. And I want to show you here what they are. And then we're going to go back to the other side and we're going to look at it. Because the first one in 10:8 and 11:8, this is the first escalation I showed you. The first escalation. The dismissal with the king's provision. That was the first escalation. And David said to Uriah, go down to thy house and wash thy feet. And Uriah departed out of the king's house, and there followed him a mess of meat from the king. That's what happened. He made a provision for this to happen, to set him up. And then when we look at 2 Samuel chapter 11, verse 10, it says, and when he had told David, when they, those servants, because those servants knew exactly what David had done. So when they had told David, saying, Uriah went not down to his house, David said to Uriah, comest thou not from thy journey? And why then do not go down to thy house? Why you didn't go down there? So that's the second escalation, and he started interrogating this man. I don't care how we look at it, how you try to frame it. When he's questioning the man why he didn't go not down, all he got to say, why you call me out of the field? Why you call me out of the war? But it's the third escalation. You see it in 11 and 12. 12 and 13, I'm sorry. And it says, and David said to Uriah, tarry here today also, and tomorrow I will let thee depart. So Uriah abode in Jerusalem that day and the morrow. And when David called him, he did eat and drink before him. And he made him drunk. David got him drunk. and even went out and lie on his bed with his servants and of his Lord, but went not down to his house. I want to get this man drunk and to where I can put this on this man. This is what's going on. So we have this issue here that the king sought the result 3 times, namely to sit there to sit this man up. But of the same result, he saw 3 unlike instruments established a single design. So 2, we got to look at the instrument escalated in order what happened. So he commanded with provisions, then interrogation, in delay, then delivered intoxication. And escalation is the signature of the purpose that will not be abandoned. Because we got to understand exactly what we're seeing. So the conduct of Urias remained 1, unchanged under all 3 instruments, in the record sealed 3 times, in the word satisfying the role of proof. We're going to see this here. Deuteronomy 19:15. It's clear. 1 witness shall not rise up against 1 man of any iniquity, for any sin, and in any sin that he sinneth, at the mouth of 2 witnesses, or at the mouth of 3 witnesses, shall the matter be established. He's making himself clear. This is a clear thing. So we have to understand that. Urias, he disposed to reason upon the oath. He made an oath. But we got to see it with his own witnesses. You're going to see with his own oath. And I want to make sure we all understand this. This is in 2 Samuel chapter 11:11. And it tells us this here. And Uriah said unto David, the ark, 1, including Israel, including Judah, abide in tents. And my lord Joab, your nephew, and the servants of my lord are encamped in open fields. Shall I then go into my house to eat, drink, and lie with my wife? As you live, David, and as thy soul live, you, David, I will not do this thing. I will not do it. A lot of us would. So I'm not going to remove that, because a lot of us would. A lot of people would sit there, oh yeah, I no, you wouldn't. You go do it. So before you try to sit there and point fingers at somebody, you got 45,000 pointing at you. So, and then grounding in the ark, in the camp, in the statute, in this court received as state of reason, as a controlling testimony of the motive. And invented no other thing that he did here. He didn't have to. So the king proposed and established a circumstantial and a lawful by sequence. We have to look at those. This is why we got to take our time and make sure we clearly understand what's going on here. The first conception preceded the summons. The summons preceded the 3 pressings. The pressings preceded the letter of death. Everybody follow me? I want to make sure everybody's following me here. Because first the king, he purposed to establish this. The message preceded the summons. The summons preceded the pressings. The failure of the pressings preceded the letter of death. That the king dealt falsely with his own servant. And we have to sit there and see what he did, and you can see that he's breaking God's law. You'll see it here. The mouth of Jehovah sent to us. We'll see this in Leviticus 19:11. It says, ye shall not steal, neither deal falsely, neither lie one to another. That's in the law. That's in the law. Think about that. Receiving him face to face while pursuing a private design against his household, this office of that throne aggravated this breach. Aggravated this. Because it's shown in two places. The mouth of Jehovah he sent. I'll show it to you. It's in two places. And it's in one, we're going to look at this in Deuteronomy 20:17. You're going to see it here. And it says, and his heart should not be lifted up above his brother. It shouldn't be lifted up. I understand you're the king, but you can't be sitting there lifting yourself up above me. You're a man. That turn not aside the commandment to do right to the right hand or to the left. To the end of he may prolong his days in his kingdom, and he and his children him and his children in the midst of Israel. See, this is here, but I'm going to show it to you. It's also in respect not a person. See, it's also there too, because it's here too. When we look at Deuteronomy, you see it right there. 17:20, it's right here at the bottom. It's right there at the bottom. So we have to understand exactly what we're doing. Digging deeper into this, the three charges of instrument against a fixed resistance constitute laying the weight within a meaning. What I'm saying is that we have to question the intent. I have it up there. Questioning the intent. We'll see it here. In Numbers, we're going to look at 35, looking at verse 20. And we're going to look at two verses. It says, but if he thrust him of hatred or hurled him by laying a weight that he die, or in enmity smite him with his hand that he die, he that smote him shall surely be put to death, for he is a murderer. A revenger of blood shall slay the murderer when he meet him. Exactly the point. That intent is in two places. Because we also got to look at Exodus 21:14. It says, but if a man comes presumptuously upon his neighbor to slay him with guile, exactly the point, thou should take him from my altar, that he may die. Exactly the point. So that one follower not with mischance, but waiting on purpose. And I want to get here. So as we following this, we seeing what's going on. That the three pressures fell upon the man twice sheltered by the law, by encamped statues within their own witnesses, own oath. We'll see it here again, then we're going to go back to the other part, because we building this case to where he can't get out of this. And we're looking at this in Deuteronomy chapter 23, but we're going to look at 9, and we also want to look at 14. When thou goest forth against thy enemy, then keep thee from every wicked thing. For the Lord thy God walketh in the midst of thy camp, to deliver thee and to give up thy enemies before thee. Therefore shall thy camp be holy, that he see no unclean thing in thee. No unclean thing in you. And turn away from thee. That's interesting. Highly interesting. The reason why this is interesting, because we got to follow the camp law. So we putting all this going against David. David can't even get around this. But we got to look at camp law. So the law of the camp law is this. We're going to look at two places. We're going to look at Exodus 22 and 21. We're going to look at Leviticus 19:34. So Exodus 22 and 21, it tells us, thou shalt neither vex a stranger nor oppress him, for ye were strangers in the land of Egypt. Ye shall not afflict any widow or fatherless child. But it gets better. Leviticus 19:34 tells us, but a stranger that dwelleth with you, you shall be unto him as one born amongst you, and thou shalt love him as thyself. For ye were strangers in the land of Egypt, for I am the Lord your God. Interesting, ain't it? Interesting. We have to think when we do this to our own so-called friends. Because the prophetic woes within the camp law happen. We'll see this in Habakkuk. Chapter 2, we're going to look at 9, 12, 15, 16. We're going to look at those. Because it says, woe unto him that covet an evil covetousness to his house, that he may set his nest on high, which he was, that he may be delivered from the power of evil. Woe to him that buildeth his own town with blood, establishes a city by iniquity. Oh, interesting. Woe unto him that giveth his neighbor drink. Oh. And putteth thy bottle to him, and maketh him drunken also, that he mayest look on their nakedness. Thou art filled with shame for glory. Drink thou also, and let thy foreskin be uncovered. The cup of the Lord's right hand shall be turned unto thee, and the shameful spewing shall be on thy glory. This is actually happening. When we stand in judgment, and Jehovah stands on this kind of design, covered in one house, building with blood, the bottle is put to the neighbor. Together they return the cup. They offer this parallel. It's not a prediction, it's written secretly of their house. That the responsibility is assigned by a record itself, not by interference of this body. It's not going to happen. Because it's going to always go back to the same thing what it tells us right there in 2 Samuel chapter 12, verse 9. Wherefore, thou despise the commandments of the Lord, to do evil in his sight. Thou hast killed Uriah the Hittite with the sword, has taken his wife to be thy wife, and has slain him with the sword of the children of Ammon, because that's who we was at war with. Now, as we going through this, you see what the records are. Is that a lie on everything I showed you, or is that facts because you see truth in Scripture? That's an I or N. That's an I or an N. Do you see the facts, or do you not see and you just say, no, that couldn't happen to David? That's an I or N. Real simple. Simple thing. Not hard. This is not a hard thing because we see it. So when you see something, many people are going to sit there and they're going to hold it for what it is. The only thing we can do is, yeah, I see what happened. I see what went on. We can't get around it. 3 times the king altered that pressure. 3 times returned the same answer. And the same answer was he went back down to his house. 3 times. The meat did not move him. The questioning did not move him. The wine did not move him. The consistency of this servant did not create the guilt of the king. I'll say this again to each and every one of you guys. The consistency of Uriah, his servant, did not create the guilt of the king. It exposed the purpose of the king. I want you to hear me clearly. For the design must change its instrument 3 times has confessed itself a design. The 3 woes of Habakkuk, the hangover, the 3 escalations, like 3 drawn indictments in the nest, the blood, the bottle, the cup. The king poured. This happened. So as we sit there and we look at, actually, let's go back in here real quick. We look at Habakkuk, we want to look at 16 and then verse 15. So we're going to look at 16 first and we're going to go backward. It says, thou art filled with shame for glory and drink thou also, and let thy foreskin be uncovered. The cup of the Lord right hand shall be turned unto thee. A shameful sprung unto be thy glory. Woe unto him that giveth his neighbor drink. Woe unto him that giveth his neighbor drink, and putteth thy bottle to him to maketh him drunken, that thou mayest look upon their nakedness. It's a cold, cold man. It's a cold man. So I'm gonna give you some scriptures. Because we're not gonna go through all those, but I'm gonna give you the references where they are. So you remember the witness's own oath. That was in Deuteronomy. I showed you that the witness's own oath. Showed you Deuteronomy 23, 9 and 14. Keep that in mind. Then the statute of the stranger within the camp statutes, the laws. Exodus 22 and 21, Leviticus 19 and 34. Then we had a statute of the first escalation. That was Exodus 20 and 17. But I want to put another part in there. We have to put another part in and look at this. And when we look at this a little bit closer, we're going to see something. I want to take you somewhere. And we're going to look at Leviticus 18 and verse 20. And it says, moreover, thou shalt not lie carnally with thy neighbor's wife, to defile thyself with her. Got you. So that statute, the stumbling block within the third escalation. And I'm going to show it to you, because I'm going to show you that was a third escalation that this man was doing. So we're going to look at the third escalation, and we're going to see this buried right in Leviticus 19:14. Thou now shalt not curse to death, nor put a stumbling block before the blind, but shall fear the Lord thy God. Thou shalt fear thy God. I am the Lord. I told you, it's right here. It's right there. Part of the third escalation. We're looking at this The witness oath, the same thing. I want to reference the same thing that you go look at. When you look at the question and the intent, Numbers 35, 20, and 21, where I showed you that. The intent. Shows you that. Oh, yeah, it's right here. The statute of the throne, the second escalation, and not respecting the person. Not respecting the person. In part of the second escalation. And that's saying Deuteronomy, it's right there. In 17:20, but you'll see it in no respect to person, 18 through 20. When you're saying no respect to person, you'll see it here. So the record stands in three pressures, one wall. The law of Jehovah is the soldier heart. The woes found in the king's furnace found the Hittite. Each man was revealed by which found him. The scriptures rested is the verdict upon the speculation, upon the construction of men, upon the acts of the records. Yeah, one quick second. Thank you. Sorry about that. So we have to understand that. When the furnace found him and found his Hittite, each man revealed which found him. The scriptures rested on the verdict, not upon the speculation. So we got to keep all this in mind. The construction of men, the acts of the records, the sequence that's established, the transgress, the sentences spoken, Jehovah sent. We want to understand what happened. And actually, I want to show you that. I want to pour that out, because this was out of the mouth of Jehovah. He says this in 12:7. Nathan said unto David, Thou art the man. Thou art the man. I'm going to ask many of us, who is this man? The king must press somebody 3 times. Understand, I will tell you whose door he slept at, whose robes he clothed, whose household he kept. The name stand written where the king's name mightiest. The last stand of all, Uriah the Hittite. Uriah the Hittite. Who was Uriah? It's going to always tell you, Uriah the Hittite. You see this, and he was always stand at, who is Uriah? We'll see this in 2 places, in 23:39 and 2 Samuel. Uriah the Hittite, 30 and 7 of all. Talking about 37. He was part of the 37, the soldiers, these special soldiers for King David. You also see it here. Uriah the Hittite. It never changes. He was no stranger to the king. And no enemy, not obscured man in ranks. He was part of the king's own 37. The father of his wife was on the same roll. The grandfather of his wife was on the own king's council. All this it's all there. He was a servant faithfully of the army, faithful to his commander, faithful to the very hour of the king. Served with this co-spring against his house, the terror of this case. So what we're doing, we're looking at this here, where we got to look at the entire thing, 14, using the exhibit 14. Because exhibit 14 he had to sit there and he lodged at the door among the servants of his Lord. He lodged at the door. Let me show you what I'm talking about here. Let me show you here. We'll go here, but what I want to do is go here. We're gonna look at something. We're gonna go to 2 Samuel, actually 11:9. We can go right here and pull this. Pull records on this. But Uriah slept at the door of the king's house with the other servants of his Lord, and went not down to his house. So we see this here. Sin in the door, or was Uriah being faithful? Sin laid at the king's bed, and the righteous laying at the door, at the king's door. Can you make that make sense to me? Sin laying in the king's bed. Righteousness is laying at the king's door. Please, someone make that make sense to me. Uriah declined the bed the law itself held upon him, and lodged, it constituted watching, and he watched posts among the servants of his Lord. 3 writings condemned the king out of his own house before ever the prophet came, and sworn to vow that he did not come up to his own bed of the ark that he wanted in place, before it ever even happened. Let me show you what's going on here. We're going to look at Psalms 132. We're going to look at 3, but we're going to go down a little bit. We're going to go down a little bit. It says, surely I will not come into the tabernacle of my house, nor go up to my bed. Really? That's in Scripture? Yeah, it's in Scripture. I will not give sleep to my eyes, or slumber to my eyelids, until I find a place for the Lord, that ark, the habitation of the mighty God of Jacob. Highly interesting, ain't it? That it's placed there. Psalms 101:7. He that worketh deceit shall not dwell within my house. He that telleth lies shall not tarry in my sight. His own published charter, that worker of deceit, his own refusal, in a better day, drink, the purchase, the jeopardy, that role that he was doing. And the same thing we sit there and see here. I want to show you this as we continually just moving forward to understand more so what he did. I want you to see this and understand what's going on. In 2 Samuel chapter 23, looking at 16, 17, it says, and 3 mighty men break through the host of the Philistines and drew water of the well of Bethlehem. There was the gate, and took it and brought it to David. Nevertheless, he would not drink thereof, but poured it out unto the Lord. Interesting, ain't it? And he said, it be far from me, O Lord, that I should do this. It is not this, the blood, the lifestyle of men that went in jeopardy for their lives. Therefore, he would not drink it. These things did these 3 mighty men. You go down to 39, it's getting more interesting. Get a little more interesting. Uriah the Hittite, 30-7 in all. 30-7 in all. Uriah, unique individual. Unique individual. But it goes back to this. Not respect person in judgment. Deuteronomy 1:17. Ye shall not respect person in judgment, but ye shall hear the small as well as the great, and shall not be afraid of the face of the man, for judgment is God's. And the cause that is too hard for thee, too hard for you, bring him unto me, and I hear it. Leviticus 19:15. Ye should do no unrighteous in judgment. You see how this keep going back to this unrighteous in judgment. Thou shalt not respect person of the poor, or honor the person of the mighty. Deuteronomy 16:19-20. Thou shalt not wrest judgment. Thou shalt not respect persons, neither take gift. I want this to just marinate on some of our minds. I just want this to marinate on some of our minds. David set up a feast for him to go down to his wife. People say, no, I can't believe David. What have you done to try to butter up somebody to where you can have your way? And what you was giving them was a stumbling block. Have you thought about that? You was doing something for them, giving them a stumbling block to where they won't see your wrongdoing. Blindeth the eyes of the wise. Tell you that. Neither take a gift. For a gift doeth blind the eyes of the wise and pervert the words of the righteous. It's right there. It's right there in front of you. But it gets better. Numbers 15:16. You see it's going across one law. One. Don't you ever come and tell me we got a law for us and they got a law for them. It's one law. One manner of law should be for you, including for the stranger that sojourning with you. Everybody gonna be under the same law. Exodus 12:49. One law should be for him that is homeborn. So even if you part of Israel, a lot of you guys just say Israel, you show not Israel. That I can promise you. But the main thing is still saying here. If you homeborn, unto the stranger that sojourneth among you. And you diligently inquire about this. Deuteronomy 13:14, it tells us the same thing. It says, and thou shalt inquire and make search and ask diligently, but well, I might well cross this out. This I got to cross out. So I apologize, which y'all know I don't do. I apologize for saying this part and ask diligently, because that's something a lot of y'all don't do. So my bad on me. Because this is something y'all do not do. You sit back with your proud selves and you don't ask nothing. And remember, if it be true, the thing is certain, that such abomination is wrought among you. You get me? This is how this goes. It goes back to Deuteronomy 19:15. One witness shall not rise up against a man in iniquity for any sin and any that he sinneth. The mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses shall the matter be established. You see, we don't run around this whole board. All about not respecting person. Deuteronomy 17:18-20. And it shall be, when he sitteth upon the throne of his kingdom, David, that he shall write a copy of the law in a book, out of which is before the priests and the Levites, and it shall be with him, and he shall read therein all the days of his life, but he didn't do it, that he may learn to fear the Lord his God and keep his word of this law and these statutes to do them, but he didn't do them. That his heart may not be lifted up, which he did, up above his brethren, which he did, and he turned not aside the commandment to the right hand or to the left, and to the end that he may prolong his days in his kingdom. All this stuff he did. All this he did. So when we see this, so finding upon this servant stream, the mouth named Bathsheba. It named her. It named her. You see it here. 2 Samuel chapter 11, verse 3. It says, David sent and inquired about the woman. And one said, hold up, king. King, is not this Bathsheba that you looking at down there? It's not that her down there? The daughter of Elam, you know, you're one of your mighty men. That's the daughter of Elam, the wife of Uriah the Hittite. That's her down there. You see it right there. You see it right there. He ain't saying that like this is her. He's sitting there saying, dude, you know her. This is the wife of one of your mighty men. Her dang grandfather, so you know she probably was in there playing around inside the dang palace with David. It's not that her. Let's see verse 10. And when they told David saying Uriah went not down unto his house. So they knew what he did. And then they had to have known that David was trying to set him up. So since they knew that, they went back to David when Uriah didn't go down. And they said, Uriah didn't go down to his house. Answer me. Uriah didn't go, hey, man, Uriah didn't go down there, man. King David, Uriah didn't go down there. Everybody know David and Bathsheba have gotten together. Everybody know that. Everybody in that house knew it. Why? They went and told David, hey, Uriah didn't go down there. So everybody had to be in on it. So David went to Uriah, and David said unto Uriah, comest thou not from thy journey? Why then doest thou not go down to thy house? Why you didn't go down there to your house, man? Why you didn't do this? You know I've been trying to set you up. But Uriah is ignorant to the fact. Loyalty. One order of servants and the exhibit offered in the place the men in the midst of their stream. And I want you to make sure we clearly understand this. Make sure we clearly understand this here. Let me get here. So the same thing is, we have to look at it for what it is. See, when Uriah slept at the door of the king's house with all the servants of his Lord and did not go down, he's lodging at the door. Uriah is hanging out at the door. Actually, let me show it to you. We're going to look at 2 Samuel chapter 11, verse 9. It's right there. Look at it. And it said, but Uriah slept at the door of the king's house with all the servants of his Lord and went not down to his house. So if this happened, what business is it of the king's? Unless the king had a fixing in for him. Unless the king was trying to fix him up. From this verse alone, four facts are established. I need you to write them down. I need everybody to write this down because we got 4 facts are established in the body. This body is in it. No more than 4. First one. The first one. Just put 1. Uriah lodged at the door of the king's house. That's 1. 2, that he lodged among the servants of his Lord and not apart from him. 3, Uriah went not down to his own house. In the 4th one, just from this verse here, that his lodging at the door became known. For the following verse recorded that they told David. The following verse showed they told David. Because we can go right back to 2 Samuel 10. Actually, I'm going to tell you what, I can go back to 10 and pull it back up. I can go back to 2 Samuel 11:10. I'm going to pull this back up. I want you to see it on here. 2 Samuel. I want you to sit there and see it. This proving the point. So you see 11:9 when he did this. But look at 10. And they told David. What business is it of theirs? The lodging became known. So we looking at the discipline of record. What the Bible, we also got to look at what the Bible did not say. What the Bible did not say. We got right here. What the Bible didn't enter. It's right here. Look at all this. Look at all this. Let me see. Right there. Look at this here. Ridiculous. See, we now going to let the word of God do what few advocates will do. Few advocates. And declare its own limits before the adversaries declares them for him. The text said, not that Uriah slept upon a stone. A stone is a figure. We got to keep that in mind. A stone is a figure that we got to see as figure of speech. And we can label a figure whenever it's used. So to say that Uriah did not, and not that Uriah held the office of a doorkeeper, but he called upon the porter by conviction. Try to make sure some of this we're gonna get. The text, when we're looking at Bible text, said not that Uriah knew the king's transgression to it. It's an I for yes, N for no. Did Uriah knew the king's transgression? I for yes, N for no. This is plain, simple. You tell me. Did Uriah know the king's transgression? No. He had no idea. He didn't have the slightest idea what this king had done. He didn't even talk to his wife, couldn't even go down there. They didn't have phones back then. That's just in case some of the kids might be saying, they didn't have phones. No, they didn't have phones back then. So this is the instrument that I already handle that question under the discipline of the undeclared, entering the lawful reading of the weights of the adversary answer. Asserting neither. So the text said not that the Psalms of the doorkeeper is the Psalm of David. When we're looking at Psalm 84, we're going to look at verse 10. We're going to go here real quick. I want to go here. I want to show you something. It says, for a day in thy courts is better than 1,000. I'd rather be a doorkeeper at the door of my God than to dwell in the tents of wickedness. Wait a minute. Are you serious? And is ascribed in the sons of Korah 1. We're going to look at Psalms 84 and verse 1. How admirable are thy tabernacles, O Lord of hosts. Shut the front door. The courts is correct that attribution openly, but having found his own prior draft a cause that must be propped by the overstatement is a cause that have not been reached to the bottom. The cause that has been reached to the bottom need no prop. So when the false authority is removed, two true authorities going to rise in place are heavier by far, and both are David's own attributions. Think about that. So looking at this, what the Bible didn't enter, we're going to analyze some of this. Let's do some biblical law analyzations real quick. Because within the first and second and the third, I want you to make sure we do something that's going to trip everybody out. Everybody got to be out. I want you to sit there and you're going to trip out on this. I want you to mark the geographically before the argument. Within the house, the king who had lain when he ought not, in the threshold of the soldier who would not lie where he had a lawful right to lay. I want you to keep all that in mind as we talk. As we sit there and we lay out the evidence on King David. 6 findings upon the verse, each fastened to a statute. The first finding is the lawful bed, the statute that's held upon open. So the phrase where the law might not have floated free from the word of God, the law itself, keep this in mind, the law itself held the bed open to this man. I want you to hear the tenderness of the law of God of Israel towards the warrior's house. I want you to pay attention to this. And you're going to see some of this. You follow me? So we got to sit there and see this here. Let's look at something. We're going to go into the first one. And this is the first finding. Deuteronomy chapter 20, picking it up at verse 7, it tells you this. It says, and what man is there that have brothel a wife? What man brothel a wife and have not taken her? Let him go and return to his house, lest he die in the battle, and another man take her. And again, Deuteronomy 24:5. When a man has taken a new wife, he shall not go out to war, neither shall he be charged with any business, but he shall be free at home 1 year, and shall cheer up his wife which he has taken. Interesting, ain't it? So the law makes the express and tender the provision of a soldier's bed. Urias declined even a lawful exemption because the higher statute bounding. It's right here. When thou goest forth against thy enemy, then keep thee from every wicked thing. Keep thee from every wicked thing. So now we can let the scriptures mark the horror that's made in Deuteronomy 20:7. See, the tragedy of the statute, and it's written to prevent, lest a man die in battle, another man takes her, become the crown operational plan. So the king first, I want you to understand exactly what he did. The king first took her. You see how he going to invert this. I want you to see this. But he first take her. Then he arranged that Uriah, her husband, die in battle. You see, that's an invert, because a man that had brought her the wife had not taken her and go and return unto his house, lest he die in battle, and another man take her. He inverted that. He first took her, then he arranged that Uriah die. So the exemption clause is the law of war, was turned upside down as a blueprint. He did not merely transgress the statutes, he inverted it. He inverted this. I want you guys to understand what's going on here. David inverted this. He made the law his own mercy, and he shaped his own crime. We can't get around that. We can't get around that. Let me see. I just take it all the way back. And we're going to go back here. So we're looking at this, what it didn't enter. We're looking at what stuff that's not entered. And then we got to look at the second findings. We're just doing some analyzation, that's all. So lodging was public, observable, and collaborated. You see it right there. But I want you to clearly understand, with all the servants of his Lord, the lodging was witnessed, the witness many times over, satisfying the rule of proof at the mouth of 2 or at the mouth of 3 witnesses. It's right here, the mouth of 1 or 2, against any man of any iniquity. But he didn't do no iniquity, he just slept at the door. For any sin or any sin that he sinneth, at the mouth of 2 or at the mouth of 3 witnesses, shall the matter. David inverted all this. He had his servants talebearing on Uriah. You can't tell me this thing. People, well, it's cool. Yeah, because we got some inverted people here. So now we said that the public against the craft, the adulterer, which is recorded now, he described the life of this. And we got to look at that. We got to look at this. I want you to show you, I just want to make sure we see all this together. In Job chapter 24, but we're going to look at verse 15 through 17. We're going to look at this and understand how this looks. And it says, the eye also of the adulterer waited for twilight, saying, no eye shall see me. No understanding shall see me. Why? Because David got it in his own dang head and disguises his face. In the dark, they dig through houses, which they had marked for themselves in the daytime. You seen her? You marked it. They knew not the light. For the morning is to them even, meaning at night, as a shadow of death. If one knew them, they are the terrors of the shadows of death. That's just like hanging out with people who don't teach. You hanging out with shadows of death. This is the issue. Sin keep the curtains in fear in the mornings of righteousness. Lodged in the open streams and they slept. And the wise, even in the Apocrypha, actually I want to show you something. Even in the Apocrypha. We're going to look at something in Sirach chapter 21, looking at verse 23. It says, a fool will peep in at the door into the house. A fool do this. Peep, trying to see what they can see. Trying to see what they can see. But he that is well, neutered will stand without. Yeah, I'm not going downstairs. I'm not going down to my house. What the Bible didn't enter. See, the Bible didn't have to enter all this. The Bible didn't have to put all this in there. But guess what? I'm including it because we need the case strengthened to make sure can't nobody sit there and free David. Because it's telling you when we look at the third one. The door of information. The door of information. The statue that binds it. Interesting. It's real interesting because you see it's all David stuff here down there. The same servant ordered that answered. The same servant that ordered answered right here, 2 Samuel chapter 11, verse 3. David sent and inquired of the woman, and one said, it's not, hey dude, that's Bathsheba down there. The daughter of Elam, the wife of Uriah, the Hittite. That's her. That's her. Did he care? When they had told David, Uriah didn't go down to his house, because David already slept with her and she got pregnant. He said, come on not down to thy house, thy journey. Why then thou doest not go down to thy house? Why? So why you didn't go down there? Why you want to interrogate me? Dude, you don't know why I didn't go down there. What business is it yours, King? 2 Samuel chapter 11, looking at 18 through 24, it says, Joab sent and told David all these things concerning the war. So his dang nephew already told him what was going on in the war. And charged the messenger saying, thou hast made an end of the telling of the matters, the war of the king. If there be that the king wrath arise and say unto thee, wherefore approaches ye so nigh unto the city when ye did fight? Interesting. Know ye not that they would not shoot from the wall? Who smote Abimelech? The son of Jershab? Did not the woman cast a piece of a milestone upon him from the wall, and he died in Tisbeth? Went ye nigh to the wall? Then say thou, thy servant Uriah the Hittite is dead also? So the messengers went and came and showed David and all that Joab had sent for him, sent him for. And the messenger said unto David, surely the man prevailed against us and came unto us into the field, and we were upon them unto entering of the gates, and the shooters shot from off the wall upon thy servants, and some of the king's servants be dead. That servant Uriah. You see how they keep bringing up Uriah the Hittite is dead also. So they know David knew this guy. That's why they're naming him by name. You know, Uriah got taken out too. Uriah was taken out. So we have to understand that part. Two nights this happened. The preacher warned the curse, not the king. Actually, let's look at something. In Ecclesiastes chapter 10, looking at verse 20, it says, curse not the king. No, not in thy thought. And curse not the rich in the bedchamber. For a bird of the air should carry the voice, and that which have wings should tell the matter. And every wing of that court flew towards the throne. Every wing in the court flew towards that throne to tell it. Tell me about it. Tell me what we don't do. See, when we're looking at this, we got to understand a few things. Let's look at something. Leviticus 19:16. It tells, thou shalt not go up and down as a talebearer. Flap, flap, floop, floop. We got to go tell the king so he can pat me on the head. I ain't got to say anything. Flappy, flap, fluky, fluke. Let me go tell the king. Thou shalt not go up and down as a talebearer among thy people. Tell you a short story. Years ago, my heyday, I was a contractor. What happened? It was a guy telling me. I was doing this big tilt-up job. This guy gonna come up next to me. He telling me all what he doing. Now, mind you, I already see his deceitfulness. He's talking to me about 10, 15 minutes in. He telling me all what he doing. I'm gonna go hit this, I'm gonna go around there, I'm gonna get that, I'm gonna go do this, go do that. He telling me all this, and he's standing right next to me. Then he decided to point out people. Everybody he pointed out was working. He said, see, they ain't doing what I got to make sure they doing. And I just let him finish. When he finished, I say, have you noticed you've been up here telling me everything for about 15 minutes? Everybody been working but you. Everybody working but you. You telling all kind of craziness on everybody else, and you are the one standing here doing nothing. Oh, I thought you wanted to know. I didn't ask you. I didn't want to know anything. I can see everybody. Tailbearing. Flying. Gonna fly over here to tell me what? Mark the tailbearing and the blood stand joined in a single statute. It's to record they're a single machine. A single machine. So the report of the door came the trigger of the interrogation. See, when the report of the door that Uriah did not go down, that triggered and pulled the finger trigger on the interrogation to Uriah. That's why David went off. Interrogated him. The interrogation began up becoming wine. The wine became a letter. The letter became blood. His servants knew she was with child. This was the engine that the talebearers was done by David's servants. Trying to show how loyal they are to David. The law has foreseen the whole engine forbidden in one breath. In one breath. There we go. So we're going to get to this fourth one. The fourth one. You see right there, the door of information, the statue that bind it. See, we got to let it be fixed to the record and answer this insinuation that the man was moving in a stealthy manner and evasive. So I got to remove that. See, the king's door of the house was a standing, you can look at it as a standing military station of the kingdom. That was like a station right there. Let's look at something. 2 Kings, looking at chapter 11, looking at verse 5. He commanded them, saying, that is the thing that ye shall do. A third part of you shall enter into the Sabbath, and ye shall even be keepers of the watch of the king's house. And that's what they made sure of that. When the crown moved against this man, the man was on duty at the crown's post, and he fled not to hiding, not absent, without leave. You got to remember who this man was. He was a soldier, one of the 37. And he had a right to be there. He had a right to be there. But the fifth one is more tributable when we're looking at this. And you see the door is not a threshold only. It's tributable. Yeah. See, here's where the geographic becomes a statute, and the scriptures inquire. The door is the law's own appointed place of a judgment and of an oath. So when we're looking at this, where the servant refused his freedom, when a servant refuses his freedom for love, the statute of the commandment, he talks about how much he loved his master. You see it here. Exodus chapter 21, looking at verse 5, it says this, for a servant shall plainly say, I love my master, my wife, and my children. I will not go free. Then his master should bring him unto the judge, and he should bring him to the door and unto the doorpost, and his master should bore his ear through with an awl, and he should serve him forever. See the same thing in Deuteronomy 15:16. And it says, and he shall say unto him, I will not go away from thee, because he loved thee, in thy house, because he is well with thee. Then thou shalt take an awl and thrust it through his ear and to the door, and he shall be thy servant forever. And also unto the maidservant thou shalt do likewise. Bingo. The door is where the law hears the oath of the servants who say, I love my master. It's right there, you just seen it. I will not go and be free. We have to remember what Uriah did in the eyes of the statue. He lodged at the door among all the servants of his Lord. And by the geographic of the law, his sleeping body was the testimony given to an appointed place, the testimony that bore out the ear of the all. So the servant's oaths without the word, and then on tomorrow, he speak aloud. That's what we're looking at 2 Samuel 11:11. Got it right up here. And Uriah said unto David, the ark, you got to remember the ark, including Israel, including Judah, abide in tents, including my Lord, my leader, my chief, Joab, and the servants of my Lord, are encamped in the field. Shall I then go to my house, eat and drink and lie with my wife? As you, the king, David, live, and as thy soul live, no, I ain't doing this. No, I got too much respect for you, man. And I'm not my brother's keeper. No, man, I'm not doing it. So This deed is where it was agreed this post was happening. That wasn't changing. So the door seated the commandment, and he write this up on the doorpost. So at the same gate, so when we get down here, Deuteronomy chapter 6 and verse 9, thou shalt write them upon the posts of thy house and upon thy gates. This don't change. That he, down on the doorpost, lay down beside the commandment. Lay down far from it, and the door is the seat of judgment. The very spice of crime. The finding was missing. And from the prior draft and was now entered into the weight. So when we sit there and the law was adjudicated, and as we're going through this, and actually before I'd even go further, but it say like was adjudicated, it was made a formal judgment, a decision being made on a disputed matter, what I'm saying. When I just say adjudicated, that's all I meant by that. So the sexual sin is at the door. Then shall they bring out the damsel the other doors of the father's house. And they should put the evil away from amongst them. That's what's supposed to happen. Why? We're looking at Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 21. It says, and then shall bring out the damsel to the door of the father's house. And the men of that city shall stone her with stones that she die, because she had wrought the folly in Israel and played a whore in her father's house. And thou shalt put away the evil from among you. See, that was supposed to go down. That was supposed to go down. But the gate of the elder's house, and they named that. So this is where we got to look at it in a very, very good way. Deuteronomy, we're looking at 25, verse 7 through 10. And I want you to really clearly understand what's going on here. It says, if a man like not to take his brother's wife, then let his brother's wife go up to the gate unto the elders and say, my husband's brother refuses to rise up unto his brother's name in Israel, and will not perform the duties of my husband's brother. Then the elders of his city shall call him and speak unto him. And if he stand to it and say, I will not take her, then shall his brother's wife come unto him in the presence of the elders, loose his shoes off his feet, off his foot, spit in his face, and shall answer and say, so shall it be done unto that man that will not build up his brother's house. This is the name shall be called in Israel, the house of him that has his shoes loose. It's going to be a witness. We have a lot of brothers here. That's the identical way. They'll say they're not, because if I say it the other way, they'll put amen in there, and they're telling you a bold-faced lie. Because we are witnesses, and you got to see the mark for it. In Ruth chapter 4, looking at verse 1, when Boaz went up to the gate and sat there, and remember, the kinsman from Boaz came by, to whom he said, Ho such a one turned aside and sat down here. And as he turned aside and sat down, and the people that were in the gate, and the elder said, we are witnesses. And the Lord will make the woman that is coming to thy house like Rachel, including like Leah, which did build a house of Israel, and do thou worthy in Ithrat, the famous in Bethlehem. So therefore we mark this with the king. He removed the cars from the gate of the rooftop, from the elders of the twilight. The witnesses, the messenger. For Uriah slept at the very station where his own ceased to belong to be tried. The king had already moved the trial to a place where no witness sat. I want you to think about that, what he did. No witness sat where he moved that trial to. So when we're looking at this sixth one, that transfer, the concept's transferred. We can't get around that. Years before that night, his own building, this same king said something. This same identical king said something. And I want to show it to you to just show you how perverted this is. In 2 Samuel chapter 7, looking at verse 2, the king said unto Nathan, the prophet, see now I dwell in the house of cedar, but the ark of God dwelleth in curtains. David had an issue with that back then. He had a big issue with that. But now you come today, the king on sentence of his own mouth. You see it here in 11:11. Because Uriah said this to David. He said the ark, you see the first thing come out of his mouth, the ark, in Israel and Judah abide in tents. The ark, Israel and Judah abide in tents. In my Lord Jacob. In the servants of my Lord are encamped in open fields. How then can I go up to my house? Eat and drink and lie with my wife. As thou livest and as thy soul liveth, I will not do this thing. The same thing David said. The scruples of a king's voice, the dedication of his house, the soldier's voice at the door, and the conscience of the throne have migrated this same threshold. This is why when we look at the rereadings of things, we have to really understand really what's going on. We really have to really pay attention when we look at rereadings of things. So when we look at this, we'll sit there and we can understand what's happening here. So what I'm saying is this is, in Psalms 27 verse 1, the Lord is my light. In my salvation, whom shall I fear? Uriah's, what it opened right here is what Uriah name means. A derivation of this. The light element of the name stands in the urim, of that breastplate. Are you guys getting this? So when we're looking at the urim, and it shall put on the breastplate upon the urim in the Thummim. There should be on Aaron's heart when I go forth unto the Lord. Aaron shall bear the judgments of the children of Israel on the heart upon continually. And thou shalt make a robe of ephod of all blue. This is all here. All this is here. This is why it gets so convoluted, I could say. David, the beloved, and Moses blessed the name of that word. Moses did that. He blessed the name of that word. You see it here in Deuteronomy 33 and verse 12. It says, Benjamin, he said, beloved, the Lord shall dwell in safely by him. And then you want to look at the Hittite title. When you want to look at that, the same thing, we see these things, you see it in John 19:19. The same thing. It says Pilate wrote a title, and put it on the cross, and the writing was Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews. But we want to understand some of this, because a title is the honor of a name. The title is the honor of a name. The record itself treated a title as a memorial. So for the men of Joash asked, what title do you see? Actually, let me go back some. Let me go back here because it's in here. And we'll look at this in Kings 23:17. And it says, and he said, what title do you see? And the men of the city told him, it is a sepulchre of a man of God. and came from Judah and proclaimed these things, and thou come against the altar of Bethel. But the main thing, what you want to really pay attention to, he asked him, what do you see? So the seat itself is perched, and then for the title is written over the prepared vessel, named him by his region. The region opens as a branch. I want you to keep this in mind. The branch is preservation. It's a shoot. It's a sprout. Every citation, every precept where the title is declared, the honor, the name, and the right is the citation where the precept is. So the region of the titles carry the honor, not a reapproach. So for that reason alone, let no man be despised for the region of his title that it bears. Let me show you what I'm talking about. I don't have it there, so I got to put up these Bibles. Let me show you something. We'll look at this in Ezekiel. So in Ezekiel 36, 8, I believe. Yeah. It says, O ye mountains of Israel, ye shall shoot, what I'm talking about, ye shall shoot forth your branches, exactly, and yield your fruit to my people of Israel. For they are at the hand to come. Exactly the point. But we're going to join something with this. Job 14 and verse 7. And he says, for there is hope of a tree, if it cut down, that it will sprout again, and that the tender branch thereof will not cease. So you have this on some, where some would be cut down, but you have some that won't sprout back. See, the title marks the region where the origin of the honor marks the covenant walk that he had passed over to it. So when we're looking at the spiritual rereadings of things, the verse stands as verbatim, so the functions stated in the place of the name. So when we're looking at this, the fire of Jehovah laid down at the door of the house of the beloved is what all I'm saying that happened. That's what we're seeing what happened here. The beloved is David. And the fire of Jehovah laid down at the door of David. And the light kept the threshold of the darkness to keep the chamber. The light of the covenant lies in the appointed place. The oath where the law hears the servant swears, and where the law tries to crime and to be committed within. So when the name, what we're seeing, when we understand what's going on, it carried the doctrine of this whole matter on what we're looking at in ministry. Because like what I was talking about, like when we first introduced, the sons of Korah were the offspring porters of Israel. It was the Korathites. So when we're looking at this, there was a service, they was the keepers of the tabernacle. Actually, besides doing that, let me show you a little bit of that. Let me show you a little bit of what's going on there. So the same you'll see here, 1 Chronicles. So 1 Chronicles 19. It's telling you, it says in Shilom, the sons of Korah, and in Elxat, the sons of Korah, exactly the point, and his brother in the house of his father, the Korathites is what I was talking about. And over the work of the service, keepers of the gate of the tabernacle, and their fathers over the host of the Lord, and the keepers of the entry. That's who they were. So we got to remember who these people are, what's going on, and what we need to do to make sure we keep this all correct. But you got to remember that inversion at the door of that council. And that's the important part. It was an inversion going on at the door. In Genesis, the 4th chapter actually tells you about that inversion. And I want to show you this in Genesis 4:7. You see, it says, "If thou doest well, thou shalt thou not be accepted. If thou if thou doest not well, sin lieth at the door." Keep that in mind. Sin lieth at your door. But I want you to mark that counsel, which a lot of people leave off. Because he tells you something even more. It says, "Unto thee shall be his desire, and thou shalt rule over him." The door is the place where the mystery happens, and the mystery is going to decide whether you're going to live or die. Cain failed at the door and rose up against his brother in the field. Uriah mastered his door, and afterwards, he was slain by his brother later in the field, within the camp statues. And that's what we showed you in 2 Samuel. The same thing is here. But Uriah slept at the door of the king's house when the servants of his Lord were not out of his house. So when we're looking at this geography, we see this innermost chamber of righteousness that lays at the door, and the house was turned inside out. This is what I'm saying. This is why it's so weird. This is why it's so crazy. This is why when we sit there, we really have to understand what's going on here. I want to put this up here. It says, "For a day in thy courts is better than 1,000." Psalms 84:10. It says, "I'd rather be a doorkeeper in the house of my God than to dwell in tents of wickedness." This scripture already corrected the misattribution to this. The Psalms is inscribed, the sons of Korah, the offspring porters, is not called the Psalm of David. It is not called that. Most people will sit there and they'll try to attribute it to him. But you see, this is the sons of Korah. This isn't a tribute to David. This is the bigger problem. Or everybody, oh, David. It's not David. So we sit there and we look at this, and the Hittite performed David's song. The truest stranger, the offspring doorkeeper of Israel, and they saying that they had rather keep the threshold than dwell in tents of wickedness. Hittite, the Korathites. This is what they did. The king, he swore with a vow, performed word by word. Word by word. Meaning this, I want to show you something where we look at this as a whole. When you look at Psalms 132, and looking at verse 1, it says, "Lord, remember David in all his affliction." Remember David now, how he swore unto the Lord and vowed unto the mighty God of Jacob. It's right here. You go all the way down to, we'll go all the way down to 5. It says, how he swore unto the Lord and he vowed unto the mighty God of Jacob, "Surely I will not come into the tabernacle of my house, nor go up into my bed. I will not give sleep to my eyes, or slumber to my eyelids, until I find a place for the Lord, a habitation of the mighty God for Jacob." That's highly interesting. Highly interesting. I'm going to put another one with us where we can get around it. And we'll put that in 2 Samuel 7:2. We already was there. And it says, and And it says, the king said unto Nathan, the prophet, see now, I dwell in the house of cedar, but the ark dwelleth in curtains. The reason I want you to see this is also part of what's not in it. But now you hear even what the Hittite did at the door. When we looked at 2 Samuel 11:11, Uriah said unto David, the ark, Israel, Judah, abide in tents. David's saying it over here. I want you to think about that. See, because the king said to Nathan, the prophet, see now I dwell in the house of cedar, but the ark of God dwelleth within curtains. So, as we're looking at this, the king and the soldiers keep the king's vow in the king's door while the king broke the king's vow in the king's bed. The soldiers kept the king's vow at the king's door while the king broke the vow and broke the vow of the bed. You explain that to me. Explain that to me. We had the three woes. We went through that. We constantly go through this. Where we always quick to pass the buck on somebody else and not look at ourselves. This is our problem. So what we have to do is remember what we have to do, what we are about, what we live for. Because the door where the blood speaks is the stone that is heard. We have to keep all these things in mind and what we're doing, what we believe, and who we are. What we have to understand on who we are and what we are to do. So as we continue and as we come into a close on this, a lot more I can say on this. We have to remember who we are, what we are. Just because many times we're in a king's position, how are we going to act? How are we going to respond? How are we going to sit there and do things that is not right? Keep those in mind as we continually move forward for one another. Because he put Uriah in the hardest part of the battle to purposely take him out. Is that us? Is that something we're willing to do? To our own friend? Are we willing to do that? It was a parable I was going to do. I probably am not doing it in my system and let my system do it. But I want you to think about that. I want you to think about what's going on here. Think about what needs to happen with each and every one of us. Are we truly my brother's keeper? When we come and we start checking one another, we had did our brother wrong. And you start being questioned about that. We can have a problem. Because we can run into many different issues: coveting, adultery, theft, false witness, and murder. Breach of marriage, unfaithfulness, spiritual corruption, idolatry, transgression for sin, fornication, covenant breaker, and betraying. And I want you to think about something. You go back over there to Matthew. Actually, I'm going to show it to you real quick. I want you to see it. I want you to see something real quick. I want you to think about this. You can see this here. We get down to 1:6. It says, Jesse begot David the king. I want you to notice something. It says, and David the king begat Solomon, of her that had been the wife of Uriah. You see, it never named Bathsheba. She was not named in this. Uriah was. Her name was stricken from the records. I don't care how you look at it, how you flip it, how you script it out. David, the king, begot Solomon, of her that had been the wife of Uriah. It don't say begot Solomon of Bathsheba. No. Had been the wife of Uriah, the Hittite. She was stricken from the records. Her name wasn't even worthy to be mentioned. I don't care how we look at it, how you flip it, how you script it. It's right there. It's right there on record. Wasn't even worthy enough to have her name inscribed there. Of her. Of who? Of her. She was just a body donor. She was just a body donor. But the righteous one is named. Who had been the wife of Uriah. You keep that in mind. We might have to return here once more again and go a little bit deeper on this. So you just keep all that with you as we continually move forward. So what are we going to do? We're going to go into Zoom. We have some deep work we have to do that we're going to be going through for the class. So what we're going to do, we're going to go back there, we're going to have our announcements, but then after our announcements, we're going to go into our class. And what we're doing, and before that, we can have some question and answer that you had for this past week. But I say to each and every person, until we meet again, no respect to a person. I don't care who they are, king or no king. Righteous judgments will always stand. So until we meet again, many will meet on tomorrow on Bible therapy. Many we will meet right after this session. So I say until we meet again, to each and every person, I was glad you were able to make it. Until you guys do your studies and go through what you need, get the understanding you need, and move forward on what you need. I'll see you once more. For that, I say shalom. And to each and every person here, shalom.
No, no, no. Yeah. There was no cause in that man that he should die. He kept the camp holy under an open sky. He would not go down to his own lawful bed while the ark was in a tent and his brothers bled. They pressed him with meat and they pressed him with wine. They pressed him with questions down a crooked line. And when he could not be bent, could not be moved, they sealed his death and put it in his hand to prove. The lamp does not go out because of the sin. The lamp goes out because of the hiding. And the hand that is confessed, the hand that will not rest until it shows the master what it's done. That's the hand that gets to hold the new life.